Hi guys, and welcome to another TBR video. This month we'll be doing another TBR jar to pick my September TBR. Ben has joined us for now, but we'll see how long he lasts. So last month I think I picked 7 books, but that was because I was gone for like half the month and I knew I wasn't going to be bringing any physical books with me, so I just read sort of what I had on my Kindle and like maybe some audiobooks. So this month I will be here all month and I actually will have a lot of time to read, so I'm super excited, and I think we're going to pick 10 books. So as usual, I have my TBR card next to me, but I also have a few books that are just in my bookshelf that are also on my physical TBR. We're a little zoomed in, but it's okay. We'll go through the books I pick anyways. I'm just gonna clear this top shelf so that we can use it for the TBR that we set for this month. Okay, so let's get started and pick out our first prompt. All right, book with a blue cover. We have a lot of options. So we have Daisy Hates is a first option. I've started this just a little bit, so I'm on chapter 2, page 14. This is a blue cover we could definitely pick. I also have Same Time Next Summer by Annabelle Monaghan. This one is like there's a lot of blue on the cover, but I think that we could do better in terms of like sticking to the prompt. There is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one is actually quite blue. This would be pretty good for the prompt. There's Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to read like a summer romance at this point. I feel like I'm definitely switching more into fall. This is hard. I think I'm gonna skip on this one for now. I think I do want to start in more of like a cozy vibes fall TBR. I do have Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This one I've heard is so good and I feel like it would be such a quick, fast read. So this is definitely a good option as well. I have Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This is actually this is very enticing. This is actually a pretty big contender. I don't know if I want to go into like fantasy right away, you know? I feel like I want to continue with the cozy romance. I don't know, we're picking 10 books, so there's definitely going to be a wide variety, but this is definitely a contender for the blue cover. This next one has Seen Better Days. This is a very old book that has been my brother's, I think, for the longest time, but that is Aragon by Christopher Paolini. I've been wanting to read this series for so long. This is like a fantasy series. I think it's straight fantasy. I don't think there's any romance in here, but it's just like a fantasy like adventure type of book. Anyways, this cover has Seen Better Days, but it is a blue cover, so definitely going in the list of options. I do have Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney. This is definitely tempting. I don't know why I've always pictured myself reading this in the winter, even though that's completely irrelevant. Like this is not winter vibes. I don't think it has any strong seasonal vibes, so I don't know where that came from. So that could definitely be an option. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. I have started this book. I'm 50 pages in. This is pretty blue, but I feel like it's not as blue as some of our other options. So I think I'm gonna pass on this one. I also have What You Wish For by Catherine Senner. I have so many blue books. I really didn't realize there was gonna be this many blue books, but it's okay, we have lots of options. I don't know what this one is about. I don't know, different option. I have one last blue book that I just grabbed from the shelf, which is We Hunt the Flame. I think this is a young adult romantasy. It's definitely giving like cozy vibes. I think this is high stakes fantasy, but it seems to focus a bit more on the romance than like politics or something like that. So that is another option we have for the blue book. Okay, we have quite a few options. I have 8 books to choose from for the blue prompt. This is so hard because like I feel like the first book is always the hardest to pick, just because you don't know how many romances you have, how many fantasies you have. You don't know where your prompts are gonna take you. So I find this especially hard for that reason. Thinking to like the September vibes, I think I'm gonna go with not a fantasy quite yet. Like if some come up later, but I think I wanna stack my TBR with a few more romances before we get to that. I think we'll do Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, just because this is a book that I've already started, so that's a big reason I want to stop starting books and like not picking them up again. And I've heard really great things about this, and I do want to continue the series and hopefully finish it by the end of the year. So that is our first book on the TBR. All right. Okay, time to pick our second prompt. Hopefully it doesn't take as long as the first one. Okay, a book with an animal on the cover. Let's see what our options are. Okay, we do have Aragon again, actually, because it does have a dragon on the cover. We have Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because of the bird on the cover. Okay, I have Part of Your World. I always was told that like there's a dog on the cover, but there's a goat on the cover, which is kind of cute. So that's definitely an option. All right, the 7-Year Slip has some, I think they're pigeons or doves. I'm not sure. I guess I'll know by the end of it, but they have some birds on the cover. All right, The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black has like a butterfly and some bugs on the cover, which is kind of interesting. All right, Air of Fire has a bird on the top of the cover and then sort of like a dragon shadow on the bottom of the cover. Ruin and Rising has, I would think, is a phoenix on the cover. These Violent Delights has a dragon on the cover. And This Darkest Descent has a horse, but it's more of like a horse statue on the front. So I don't think I'm gonna count this one actually for now. Okay, I believe those are all the books with an animal on the cover. Let's see. This is so hard, just like not knowing, again, like being at the beginning of making the TBR. Well, there's a lot of really good options on here. I think the ones I'm most drawn to are these three. So the 7-Year Slip. I don't know why this is like the cover and everything. It definitely feels like it could be more of like an autumn book, end of summer autumn book. I just feel like the vibes would be giving that. I'm not sure. The premise of this book is that our main character was really close with her aunt, and her aunt passes away and I believe leaves her the apartment, and then when she's gonna go and like live in the apartment. I think it's set in New York City, but I'm not 100% sure. Then when she goes into the apartment, it sort of like it brings you back 7 years in the past, and then she meets someone from then. Yeah, and then she meets a man who's in the apartment, but I think he's like stuck in like 7 years ago or something like that. Anyways, that's why it's called the 7-Year Slip. I feel like it's like romance, but it has a bit of like magical realism to it, which I feel like might be kind of what I'm looking for in September. So that's an option that I'm really leaning towards. The next option is Ruin and Rising. This is like fantasy, but it doesn't feel very high stakes just because this is the 3rd book in the series, but I'm not really invested in the characters, so it doesn't feel that high stakes. And I'm also really motivated to finish the series so I can get to 6 of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which I'm really looking forward to, and I'd love to do that in the fall time. So this would be like setting myself up for then. And then of course there's Air of Fire. Yeah, I would love to finish the Throne of Glass series. This is the 4th book that I'm reading in the series, so once I'm done this I'd be like halfway through. I am 150 pages into it as well, so again I could be finishing a book that I've started. I feel like I want to put all 3 of these on my TBR, and I might, but for this prompt I think I'm gonna say, well, thinking to the prompt with the animal on the cover, I feel like this one showcases the animal the most, the phoenix. So I think if I'm torn between books, I think I'll just go with like which book most aligns with the prompt. So I'm gonna do Ruin and Rising as our 2nd book on the TBR. Let's move on to our 3rd prompt. Okay. Released in 2024. Okay, I know my pick for this immediately. In terms of options, I feel like I don't actually have that many on my TBR. I've been pretty into like reading the books as they come out. Okay, so this book was supposed to be released at the very end of August, and as I previously said that like I was gone for like the last 2 weeks of August, so I wasn't reading any physical books at that time. But before leaving, like a couple of days beforehand, I went to the bookstore and I saw that they had already released it, which is Daydream by Hannah Grace. I have been looking forward to this book for so long, and when I saw it already released before like the set date, I was so excited. I really wanted to finish it before the end of the month so I could put it like in my wrap-ups and stuff, but I didn't because like I said, I only had a couple days. I'm at page 260 and I definitely want to finish it. It's definitely, if it was going to be on my TBR or not, I was definitely going to read this book, so I'm so glad that I got the prompt. And I'm kind of surprised that none of the other books that I have actually been released in 2024 that I haven't read yet. That's kind of surprising, but anyways, I'm very happy to have this prompt, and that will be the next addition to our TBR. Our next prompt, single POV. The 7-Year Slip is single POV. I think I'm gonna stay with 1st person single POV just because I feel like 3rd person single, like it is still single POV, but I just don't feel like it feels like a single POV. Alright, I'm not gonna check all of them, just maybe some that I'm the most interested in. And this one seems to be focused, just based on the summary in the back, it seems to be focused even more on just Lily, so it would make sense. Okay, so this is another option. Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. I feel like this is also single POV. It's hard to tell. I feel like if they don't tell you who's speaking, then it's gonna be single POV. So that's another option. Better than the movies, that could be kind of fun. This one might be dual POV though. These are long chapters. They seem to be single POV. I believe these are single POV as well. We have some really good options, so I think I'm just gonna end it here. These are the 4 options that I found that have been first person single POV. I think I'm most excited about 7 Year Slip or Ricochet. It's hard to say because I can't be like, oh, this one sticks better to the prompt because it's like more of a certain color or it has like more of an animal on it. Like the last one, I mean, it's objective. Like these are both first person single POV. All right, but I think I'm gonna do Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Like how many times am I gonna talk about the 7 Year Slip and not pick it? That's kind of bad, but anyways, okay. Our next prompt, book with a purple cover. Okay, wait, that's actually so hard. Like I just picked my 2 books that have purple covers on them. Let's see. We do have Love Interests by Claire Gilmore. This is, I think, just like a standalone romance that I heard really good things about. Let's see. This one has a purple spine, but not really a purple cover, so I don't think I'm gonna go for that. This is so hard. I literally just picked the 2 purple books that I have, which is so funny. Okay. The Story Life of AJ Figgery, my copy has a lot of like purple on the cover, but it's not really a purple cover. I think that then this is my only option. Alright, this is the only purple cover book I have left, but that's okay. I think that like a standalone romance would actually be really nice at some point during the month, so I'm not upset about it at all, so that's gonna be fun. I have a very purple themed TBR at the moment. Okay, that's okay. We're not gonna get that prompt again, so there we go. The next prompt, book with a yellow cover. We're really hitting all the colors today. We've got blue, purple, and now yellow. Okay, in terms of options, so we have This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi. This is the author of the Shatter Me series, but this is a more fantasy series instead of like a dystopian. And yeah, I have all 3 books in the series, so I actually do want to read this at some point. I'm not sure if September is when I'm going to want to pick up this series and start a new series, but this is an option for the yellow cover. I have The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. I really like the premise of this, so I actually am pretty tempted by this. We have The Rehearsals by Annette Christie. I didn't realize this when I picked it up. I kind of thought this was another book. I don't know if this happens to anyone where you have like an image of a certain book in mind and you hear people talk about it a lot, and then you go to the bookstore and you just pick up the wrong book. I don't know what this was. Yeah, I saw it at a secondhand bookstore, so I was like, oh, like that's the book, and then I forget which one I was supposed to get, but it was not this one. Anyways, doesn't matter. This, I didn't realize, has a groundhog trope in it, and I hate the groundhog trope, so I'm not super motivated to pick this up. I probably won't, but this would be an option with the yellow cover. And then, as I already talked about, I do have Better Than the Movies, which is pretty dominant yellow on the cover. Same Time Next Summer has like, it's like a yellow and a blue cover, but it's kind of half and half, so I don't think that this is like a strong enough yellow cover for me to pick it. And then lastly, The 7 Year Slip. I think at this point I just have to pick it. I do really want to read it. As soon as I read that prompt, I was like, I have to pick The 7 Year Slip now. So that was an easy one. There we go. Okay, we have 6 books done. We're gonna do 4 more. This is so fun. I'm so happy that I can pick like 10 of them. That's so many. A 5-star prediction. What a fun prompt. That is so tough. A 5-star prediction. Okay. Well, I definitely have to take you guys through the options, tell you guys what all of my 5-star predictions are on my shelf as it stands right now. I feel like romances, it really depends if you're like in the mood for them or not. You know, like they just have to hit at the right time, at the right moment. Whereas I feel like I can read fantasy and it's more like either that was a 5-star or it wasn't. Like it doesn't depend on my mood and my reading experience quite as much as romance. Anyways, all that to say that I've only picked fantasy books for this category, which is kind of interesting. But I feel like when a fantasy, I don't know, I feel like if it's just good, like it's just a 5-star, you know what I mean? Like it just hits, it's so hard, especially romance. Fantasy. I have 4 books to chat about, and I'm just gonna start with in order of the ones that I think are the least likely to be a 5 stars, even though I do predict them to be a 5 stars, but I'm like, it's probably gonna be a 5 stars versus like, it's like almost impossible for it not to be a 5 stars. Does that make sense? Let's just get started. I feel like it'll make sense once I get going. So the first book I picked is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've heard such amazing things. I've heard it's really fast paced, it's super fun, like it just seems like it's very like all consuming, like you can just kind of get lost in this world, and it's like very adventure. They're kind of on on like this quest to like solve these riddles for the inheritance. It just seems like really fun, but I don't know how much depth it has to it. So depending on how fun it is or how much depth there actually turns out to be, those are all things that like could influence whether it's a 5 stars or not. But this definitely has 5-star potential. The next book is sort of along the same lines, and that's Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I could definitely see this being a 5 stars. I've heard, again, such great things about it, and I know like a lot of people who have given it a 5 stars. Again, it just seems like very adventure focused in the fantasy realm. I'm not sure how strong the romance is in this book, but it just seems like really immersive, true escapism, and really fun, and I could definitely see this being a 5 stars. I feel like I'm saying the same thing about all of these, but the next one's gonna be Divine Rivals. Again, I've seen so many people give this 5 stars. It sounds like something I would like, but I am scared about the slower pacing and just the setting of it. In general, it seems to be a bit more like magical realism than true fantasy, but I'm not sure. Again, like those are things you have to like read and figure out for yourself. And then the last book, and the one I think is most likely to be a 5 stars out of all this, and the one I'm gonna pick for my TBR, is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I still haven't read this book. I've started it. I am a little ways, I suppose. I'm like 66 pages into it. It's really good so far. I just was reading it in the summer, which like wasn't really the vibes for it. And again, I'm probably not gonna read this for like the first like couple weeks of September, but maybe towards the end, if like the temperature starts dipping and fall vibes come in, I feel like then like fantasy is just gonna be a lot more enjoyable. I mean, I think most people give this book a 5 stars. I think it sounds like the romance and just the fantasy and the world of it seems really amazing. What I've read so far was really good, and that's just the setting up of the book, and we're still like kind of in the world building of it and like setting up the main plot of it and everything like that. So I think it's only gonna get better. And yeah, if this isn't a 5 stars, I'll kind of be surprised just based on everything I've heard of it. So that'll be my pick. Okay, so 3 more books to go. Let's see. Color in the title. That's so niche, actually. I genuinely think I only have one on my shelf. It's like kind of mostly a color, Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. Gold is like the closest thing. I mean, gold is a color, right? Yeah, gold is a color. But anyways, this is the only one that mentions like a color in the title. So this is gonna be my pick. This was also in my August TBR. I did read some of it. I am about like a quarter of the way through at the moment, but I'd love to finish this book in September, and I definitely intend to do so. So I guess this prompt is really just like, you've got to put this back on the TBR and you have to read it absolutely 100%. So this is gonna be the next addition to the TBR. I don't know, I'm kind of surprised that I didn't have any other books with a color in it. And even looking at my shelf, like the only one I can see with an actual color in it is Red Rising, which is the first book in this series. Like no romance books, anything like that. I really hope I don't like look back on this video and it's like, oh my god, there were so many right in your face, you just like didn't see it or like recognize it. I don't know. Okay, final 2. Part of a series. Okay, that is so fun. Part of a series. I could start a series or I could continue a series. I definitely think I'm gonna continue a series. Let me pull out my series tracker and see which ones I want to continue. Okay, for continuing the series, I mean, Daisy Hates continues a series, Ruin and Rising finishes a series, Daydream continues a series and finishes everything that's out right now, Ricochet finishes a series, Powerless starts a series, and Golden Sun continues a series. So my TBR is pretty series focused already at the moment, which is kind of crazy. So not counting those or the ones that would like come after them, because I'm not going to read 2 books in the same series in a month, I have a few options. I have Hellbent, which is the 2nd book in the 9th house duology. Well, right now there's only 2 books out, I believe. I think it's like the Alex Stern duology or something. I tried to figure out like what the name was, and that's all that came up. I don't have the physical copy. I was waiting for it to come out in paperback because I have 9th house as a paperback. Anyways, but I would have to go out and get it, and I do want to finish my TBR a little bit more, and I might read that more in like October, November, because it is like dark academia vibes, and like that would be really good. So that's an option. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is an option, but I kind of don't really want to read this one like a lot right now. I don't know why, there's like no motivation for it, so I'm not gonna force myself to do that. Then there's the Narnia series, but again, I'm just not really feeling that at the moment. So I have 2 options. Both would be really fun this month, so I'm not sure. There is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson, which is the final book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I'm kind of into finishing at the moment just because like the show just came out, although I don't think it's going to cover the last book. But I've also just heard that this one is so good, so I am thinking of doing this one, or Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas, which is, like I said before, in the Throne of Glass series, which I want to really get into and finish. And just because I think it's such a large series, I think I'm gonna go with this one. It's also the one I'm most excited for out of the 2. Yeah, I'm not really like a huge mystery thriller kind of person. I get spooked really easily. So I think the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series is the only one that I've read in that genre. Right, one more. This makes me so sad. I am having such a great time. I could do this all day. This is so fun. The longest book on your TBR. That is wild. That is actually so wild. The longest book. We're sitting at 495 pages for This Woven Kingdom. 495, that's the one to beat. From Blood and Ash, looks pretty thick. Holy cow. 597 pages. That's the one to beat. That's almost 600 pages. That is wild. Let's see, Dance of Thieves is kind of like a brick as well, but I don't think it's gonna be 600 pages. No, this is 500 pages. I don't think I have any other 600 pages books. The only one I could think that could beat it, that like I could read this month, is Queen of Shadows, which is the next book in the Throne of Glass series. But I don't think I'm gonna do that. I think I might do From Blood and Ash, although it's crazy to be starting a new series. That's just kind of wild, but the prompt has spoken. I don't know. Yeah, this one is 500. I'm so torn. Do I want to do From Blood and Ash, or do I want to do Queen of Shadows? So these are the 2 I'm debating between. This one is technically longer. This one is 640 pages and this one is 595. So this is like 50 pages longer, but the reason that I'm bringing this one up is because I feel like once I get into the series, this won't feel that long, and this is continuing in the series, whereas this is starting like a brand new series. I think I'm gonna go for Queen of Shadows. I think that just makes the most sense. I really don't want to necessarily start a new series, and like I said, I do want to read Throne of Glass this year. So that's the last book on the TBR. Like I said when we started this, it's so tough to pick the first few books. Had I known how much fantasy we had to put in at the end, I definitely would have picked up a couple more romances at the beginning. Okay, so let's do a little recap of all the books on the September TBR based on the prompts that we picked. Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, Daydream by Hannah Grace, Ricochet by Kristen Becker Ritchie. There's so much purple. Love Interest by Claire Gilmore, The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, Powerless by Lauren Roberts, Golden Sun by Pierce Brown, Air of Fire by Sarah J Maas, and lastly Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. This is kind of perfect. We have 5 fantasy, one is like dystopian but still general fantasy realm. So 5 fantasies and 5 romances. That is perfect. 50-50. I love that, especially as we're transitioning from summer, which is like I'm just reading a lot more romances than in the winter, into fall and winter season where I'm reading a lot more fantasy. I feel like September being 50-50 is just so appropriate. That's just awesome. So these are all the books from the TBR. Definitely set up for a really great reading month. I'm so excited. I definitely hope that I get to all of these books, maybe some more. I've really missed reading my physical TBR this month, and I'm excited to jump right into it, focusing on these books first. Thank you for watching and coming along with me picking my books from the TBR jar. It was so much fun. I always have so much fun filming these, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!